Hello everyone, this is Neelam Vaidya. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Viridiscane. Today I would like to discuss the topic challenges in keeping up with the health and safety information of millions of chemicals as new chemicals are constantly introduced. I would like to discuss some of the issues we encounter while getting the data, curating the data, and also validating the data against different sources. So I would like to give a very quick introduction of our company and the product chemical analyzer, and discuss some of the details about the database, and then also how chemical analyzer can be used during the lab safety and product development to understand the chemical toxicity and to reduce the toxicity. So Viridiscane was started for very specific reasons to address some of the industry needs. First of all, costly early stage R&D efforts during drug discovery time. High-risk drug targets are not identified until significant R&D efforts are spent. Viridiscane can help by providing the full toxicity profile of the molecules, even the novel molecules, and identifying high-risk drug targets. Risky late-stage changes is another issue that the industry deal with. Lack of toxicity focus during early product development forces costly late-stage changes when options are limited. By having the information about all the chemicals that the scientists are dealing with and their full toxicity profile, they can choose less toxic chemicals right from the beginning, so that the product optimization stage becomes much shortened and the late stage changes can be avoided. Regulatory compliance is another big issue that the industries deal with. There are more than 140 different global regulatory lists, and they are, especially recently, they are changing a lot. They are not published in a very specific manner or specific place. You always have to search for them, and they are not in a standard format. A lot of these regulatory lists are also textual, so you have to convert the textual data to numeric data in order to make use of that data in any fashion. Availability of the toxicity data is another big issue. There are more than 100 million chemicals available, known chemicals that are available in the market today. But only a few 100,000 chemicals information is known. A lot of MSDS or SDS, they are 80% of them are either inaccurate or incomplete. As a result, and plus they don't cover a lot of toxicological data. The results, a lot of scientists are using the chemicals without knowing full implications of those chemicals. And all of that leads to the time to market delays. So products are used during the drug discovery time to understand the toxicity implications of proposed new molecule, their analogs, and if the metabolites are known. During product development, to identify less toxic material and minimize the toxic waste. To understand the regulatory list implications, the chemical analyzer provides full list of regulatory lists that the chemical is listed under. During lab safety time, scientists can, you can actually connect our product to your lab inventory or your LIMS software, and it will identify all the fire hazards, health hazards for you so they can isolate them within the lab. Having the information about the chemicals available anywhere, anytime, for the scientists also allows them to be prepared for the eventualities. We have more data than typical SDS requires. We have 48 properties per chemical. We have 93 million chemicals in our database. And even for the unknown proprietary chemicals or new molecules, we can actually run the prediction models. We have access to about 200 different prediction models that we can actually run in real time in the background to provide you all the physical properties, toxicological properties, and based on these properties, we identify the scores, the environmental score, health score, and safety scores based on NC 355 standard. Some of the universities are also using our product to teach chemistry, specifically green chemistry. By drawing a structure, modifying the structure, you can identify how the toxicity of those chemicals changes and try to understand why or how. So here is our data. This is how we develop the database. We have large experimental data repository that was collected from all the different sources, government databases, the public domain data, research papers. Some of the universities have provided the information to us, and some of the companies are now sharing the data. We have also extracted the data from 189 135 different global regulatory lists, converted the textual data to numeric format, and incorporated that into our database. We are able to run about 189 prediction models that are industry standard. All of them provide more than 80% accuracy, and in some cases, many cases, in fact, they're more than 90% accuracy. And we can also accommodate secure corporate data during execution time, where the corporate data does not leave the firewall, but we are able to show the information about the proprietary chemicals that the companies own. Here are the platform has about 189 prediction models running in the background. They include the QSAR models, read across models, and we also are developing some deep learning models to increase the accuracy of our data. We also have a lot of data curation AI-based products that are running in the background constantly and making our database much accurate. And we have developed our own proprietary scoring algorithms that provide the information, the scores for environmental health and safety scores. These are all the properties that we provide. As you can imagine, we have a lot of physical properties, toxicological properties, and we provide environmental, acute, and chronic health endpoints, and even provide the industry use of the chemicals. So using any of these criteria, what functional group you want, what property values you want, or what range of values you want, or if there are any certain things that you don't want. So for example, you don't want to use a VOC, you don't want a reducing agent, you can provide those criteria, and during product development time, you can identify less toxic alternatives that you could use. Here are all the endpoints that we cover. There are about 58 different endpoints. They are all based on NC 355 standard. And we are still adding few endpoints, specifically in the chronic health sector section, the organ-related toxicities. So this is our database platform. We, as I mentioned to you before, we have data from all the different sources. We have automated data collection and data curation programs running in the background. We also have alerts, automated alerts set up so that any of our data sources get updated. We get the alert and we can update the data right away. So you have access to the latest data at all times. We run the prediction models in real time to provide you the information. The way we started was we started with all the known information from the different sources, and wherever there were data gaps, we actually run the prediction models to fill those gaps. As the more experimental data becomes available, that data replaces the estimated information. If you have any corporate data, some of the corporations are sharing some of the data so that our deep learning prediction models can work better. And we are specifically using that to develop newer models to predict the new endpoints. And if you have a lab safety data within your firewall or your proprietary chemical information, we can also accommodate that. The way it works is our part of our product runs within the firewall and it pulls all the information from various chem database to provide you full toxicity evaluations. So we have some of the issues that we are actually related to collecting and providing the data. Unstructured data. We have collected the data from more than 300 different sources, all in different formats. Some of the data was, in fact, a lot of the data was contradictory to each other. So we had to figure out which data to trust, which not to trust, and convert it to a standard format. Translation of the textual data to numeric data was one of the biggest challenges that we had to come across. And we had to do that so that we can actually compare the chemicals and identify better chemicals and show the information in a graphical manner so that the scientists who are not toxicologists can understand the information that we provide very easily. There are too many identifiers and a lot of misinformation available in the industry. We had to do a lot of triangulation to identify which identifiers are correct, and a lot of conflicting information. We had to use some of the reference data to validate that information. And this is a constant work. Every time there is a database update from different sources, we had to repeat this information again and again. Selecting which data to trust and prioritizing the data sources based on historical accuracy and reputation was another challenge. Luckily, our industry leaders, advisors who have helped us in prioritizing these data sources, but that prioritization again have to reevaluate it every few months because some of the data sources the companies stop doing the work, so that data becomes stale while the newer data becomes more and more relevant. Regulatory information collection. Biggest challenge was to find where the regulatory lists are and in what format. If the data is in the not in a format that we could actually convert it to digital format, it was a lot of manual work that has to be done. We have converted all the textual data to numeric values. Every data update can introduce new accuracy issues. So before we decide to update the database with newer data, we have to validate how good that data is and whether to accept it or not. Prediction models accuracy and runtime selection of the model for specific chemicals is a non-trivial task. More recently, the prediction model accuracy information is becoming more and more available. The QMRFs are available. But for older models, we had to actually validate that information ourselves by running and checking them, testing the models ourselves. The specific, we have tagged all the chemicals with their classification and functional groups so that we can run time, we can identify which models we should run against that chemical. So using Viridis chemical analyzer, what can you do? First, you can compare the toxicity profiles of the chemical. Here is an example that textile industry wanted to find out what options they have to replace the very toxic formaldehyde, which was also very dangerous to work with in the lab environment. So CDHC actually came up with, which is a standards group, came up with the alternative suggestions. And we evaluated those chemicals and compared the chemical information. And as you can see that we have all the physical properties, toxicological properties, and the scores. You can compare the scores side by side, then the properties side by side, and identify which chemical is better for certain things and not the other thing. You will never find a chemical that is completely less toxic than the other one. You really have to check which endpoint really matters for the application in hand. On the right side, you will see that the graph that we show is we have overlaid the chemical toxicity on top of each other so that visually you can see the difference between the chemicals. If you click on this graph, it will show you a summary score. And the area in general shows you how toxic the chemical is. Bigger the area, more toxic the chemical is. You can actually use the product to develop the material data sheets. We have more than 48 different properties, more than enough to develop the material data sheets. In addition to that, we provide the ecological, acute and chronic health scores and the safety information. We also provide you the GHS and NFPA pictograms and classification information in detail. And we also list the global regulatory compliance information. Where is the chemical listed, what list it is listed under. And if the occupational thresholds are available, we provide that information as well. And as I said before, the data is collected from different sources, and where the data gaps are there, we actually run the prediction models. So to get the global and regulatory information for a given chemical, you can identify the and show which regulatory list out of the 136 global regulators this chemical belongs to. As you can see, if the triangle on the right, if it is yellow or red, that means the chemical is listed under some regulatory list. If you click on that triangle, you will see the full list of regulatory lists. Also, we provide all the experimental data from all the different sources. So all the green values are experimental data, while the non-green values are estimated. If you hover over the values, it will show you the source of the data. If there are dots and brackets next to the value, that means there are multiple sources we have the data from. And you can click on those dots to get the full list of values from different sources. We check the data against the US Department DOT regulatory information and to report the RQ limits. And we also check against the OSHA CDC data sets to provide you all the safety information. If there is endpoint data missing, then we can check if the relevant models are available and run against the chemical to report the predicted information. During the lab safety time, you can actually have your inventory connected to our product, and it will provide you the full information about where the list of fire and health hazards are, the severity, the location within the lab. And the data is pulled from our database and part of our data product. They communicate with each other. So your data, which is outside the cloud, it's within your firewall and it never goes out. So here is the information that we can, you can see if there is a GHS information available, we provide the full information. The product is available on desktop, laptop, tablet, smartphone, anything that is web enabled. So at any point you want to get any information on any chemical, you can have it. So thank you very much for attending this session. I hope you like what you see. Please feel free to try our product. There is a free trial available on our website, www.viridischem.com/free trial, and you can register for a limited version of the product. Thank you. Bye-bye.